and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's Ombre Layered Push Pop tutorial, where I'll be showing you how to make this gorgeous layered ombre push pop or cake shooter. Tools and equipment that we will be using today. I always like to rest mine in a polystyrene block. I've got my push pop containers. Now these can be bought, I usually get mine from eBay. You shouldn't pay more than about 60 cents to $1 for one of these. 60 cents or 50 cents is about what I pay for them. And these can be used either with the stick, or you can pull the stick out, use them without the stick, and just sit them straight on the table if you don't have a push pop stand or container. I've got 4 Ombre Cupcakes. So I've used just a standard vanilla mix. You can either use your favorite mix or you can use a store-bought packet, and I've colored mine in 4 different shades of pink. Now to do this, I evenly divided my vanilla cake mix or my white cake mix into 4 different bowls, and I added first of all the lightest color, just a couple of drops of pink food coloring, and then I doubled the amount for each color thereafter. So I added, I think, about 3 drops to the first color, 6 to the second, about 12 or so to the third, and so on until I ended up with my really dark color. So the thing with ombre you want to remember is there's a really slight color difference between the layers, not a drastic color difference. So just make sure that your first one is very light, your last one is very dark, and the other 2 are nicely spaced in the middle. I've got some white sprinkles. Now these are really optional. I've just used them for a bit of texture on the top of that push pop. The ones that I've gone with are just white nonpareils. I've got some of our perfectly pipeable buttercream frosting in vanilla or just plain white. I've got some of mine in a Ziploc bag, which I've pre-filled, and I've just cut a decent sized little tip out of the end. And I've got a little bit more of it in a disposable piping bag with a star tip. So any size star tip, that's just going to give us our lovely little swirl on top. I've got a serrated edge knife. I've got a little circular cookie cutter. Now for the circle cookie cutter, I've used the size that is almost exactly the same size or just a touch bigger than that push pop. I always like to cut mine into a circle shape first and then pop them into the push pop. It just gives me a neater finish. And I've got one of our pre-made fondant butterflies. Once again, purely optional. That's just to add a little bit more detail. We've got a whole tutorial on these butterflies on our channel, My Cupcake Addiction. So I will make sure to leave a link to that in the description box below. Now the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to trim off the tops and bottoms of our cupcakes and take them out of the wrappers. So you just want to unwrap all 4, and then you want to take your serrated edge knife and you're just going to trim the top and trim the bottom, just as little as you possibly can get away with, just to trim off any brownness that's on there. So you can see there, once we've cut away our tops and bottoms, the colour of the cupcake is really quite apparent. Pop your offcuts into separate bowls if you'd like to use those for some ombre layered cake pops at some point. And what we want to do here is you just now want to cut each cupcake in half. So for each 4 cupcakes, you're going to get 2 cake pops. If you want to do a dozen of these push pops, you're going to need 24 cupcakes. There is a bit of wastage, so you will have plenty left over to make some beautiful ombre or just plain pink cake pops. Now from here, you want to take your cookie cutter. So we'll get rid of the top because I'm only going to make 1 push pop today. Take your cookie cutter and just make a lovely circle out of each of those cupcake bases or cupcake bottoms. And you can see there by using the circle cutter, what I'm getting is a really nice, neat, even finish around the sides that's just a fraction bigger. So pretty well the same size as the rim of our push pop container, but it's going to give it a really nice flush fit against the sides, but it's still giving us a really nice, neat finish. So I'm going to have a little bit of a tidy up and then we can come back and get decorating. All right. So we want to take the bottom piece or the darkest colour. I like to turn it upside down just in case you've been a little bit messy with the trimming there. And just take that push pop container, push it right down. What you get there is just a tiny, tiny little bit of offcut and a really nice, neat finish on that push pop container. So just gently with your fingers, just push it down, and you'll see there that I'm actually turning the push pop container, and that's just to make sure that I don't break the cake and that it all goes down nice and evenly and doesn't turn onto its side or anything. So you want to make sure it's all the way down in that nice little cup at the bottom there, or that little base. And then it's time for a little bit of frosting. So taking that Ziploc bag with some of that frosting, and what you want to do here is you want to push it right down onto that frosting, onto that cake layer so that it sticks. So you can see there I'm pushing my bag in, and I'm actually going to apply quite a lot of pressure, and just on goes a blob. Once that blob's gone on, I'm just going to use my Ziploc bag, and you can see there, I've just really pushed it down onto that frosting. That's because we're going to turn this next piece upside down. Turn your push pop container upside down, and if that frosting's not stuck, the whole blob of it's just going to fall out. It's not going to be too much of an issue, but you're just going to have to reapply it. Turn it upside down and the same thing. So just pushing it down onto that next colour and push down your next colour. If you love this tutorial, make sure that you head on over to our channel, My Cupcake Addiction, hit the subscribe button. We upload 3 times a week and we would absolutely love to have you stop by. As I push that down, you can see there I'm pushing around the sides and that beautiful little white layer divider of frosting is just becoming ever so slightly apparent. So you don't want too much frosting because you really want the cake to be the hero of these push pops. So we're going to repeat that process. A little bit more frosting, pushing down nice and firmly onto that layer of cupcake, and then I'm not even squeezing now, I'm just using the tip of the bag just to really connect that frosting to that second layer of cake. Turn your next piece upside down with the push pop, and down she goes. Pushing down, out comes our lovely little layer of frosting, and it's time for our last layer. Now, depending on what you want to do with your push pops here, if you want their lids on, leave that last layer as it is. It's going to come ever so slightly out the top of your push pop container, and when you put that lid on, it's going to fill it absolutely perfectly. So what you'll have there is, we'll stick it sort of on top, what you'll have there is see there the push pop coming into the lid. If you want to do like I've done, leave the lid off, put a lovely little swirl on top, a little bit of detail like a butterfly. You just want to cut a little bit off this top section so that it's not quite so tall, because you don't really want it coming over the top of your push pop. So what we'll do is we'll frost first and we'll stick it in, and then we'll just trim the push pop off. So a little bit more frosting, and onto our, make sure to turn it over, onto our last colour, pushing it down like so. And then I just want to take the knife and I'm just going to just trim perfectly flush along the top there. So you can see you've got now a really nice and neat finish to your push pop. Now, if you're going to go with my style, you want to take your piping bag, and we're just going to do one of our Sunday style swirls, but in a smaller version because it's just on a push pop. We've got a whole tutorial dedicated to how to perfect that cupcakey style of swirl on our channel, so I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. I opted to add a few sprinkles. It just gave it a little bit of texture. So like I said, just some white. You could use some pink, some of our do-it-yourself edible sanding sugar perhaps, anything you like. Now, before you add your butterfly, turn your push pop around because it's always going to have a best side. You can see there, this side here, it still looks nice, but we're missing a little bit of frosting in just a couple of those sections. So turn it around so you've got your best side forward. For me, I think that's right there. Take your little fondant butterfly. These fondant butterflies I've made a couple of days in advance, so they're really firm, really hard, and really dry, and they're not going to sag. They're going to stay beautiful and upright on top of our push pop, and just sit it on top. So there you've got your completed ombre layer push pop or cake shooter, perfect for any occasion. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this tutorial as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. As always, thank you very much for watching My Cupcake Addiction.